Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events. Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome back to another Fighting Recaps episode here at Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and Jacob Litton is here as well. Lions come out on top over those Green Bay Packers 34-31 in this week 11 or week 14 matchup. It's already 14 weeks in. That's crazy. This is the game of the year so far, in my opinion. It was a lot of fun, and usually I'm calmed down the next day. I'm still pretty hyped about this win all day. It just gave me a smile every time I thought about it. So how about you, Jacob? Have you recovered yet?
And it's just always good to take it to the Packers, especially this one. The stakes were so much, higher. It felt like just because we had already beat them once, now they're trying to come back to our house. They beat us at home last year on Thanksgiving. So I still felt like we needed to get another one on them. It wasn't good enough to beat them at Green Bay. This time they couldn't use the weather and all that stuff. So always a good feeling to get to beat the Packers.
I tell you what gives me a better feeling is seeing all these Packer fans on Twitter, social media. Jared Goff's knee was down, like making up all this crap. And it's like, how do you not know the rules? Do you not understand how NFL football works?
I legitimately was astounded at the number of people that are actually arguing, going back and forth about this. I thought this was common knowledge. I don't understand what, how many plays have you seen where, you might fall down or they make a catch, but nobody touches them and they pop back up? Yeah. I can't believe it's as controversial as people are making it. And you've got people slow-mo, the picture of his knee being on the ground. And they're like, oh, the NFL should investigate this. What are you talking about?
I see people actually going, what's the difference between doing a kneel down and this? It's the intent. He isn't voluntarily giving himself up. That's what a slide is. Receivers or anybody can voluntarily give themselves up on the field at any point. It's just called a kneel down. It's all based on intent. Obviously, on fourth down, he has no intent to just give himself up on the play. And, it just takes a minute ounce of common sense to understand that.
I will say a few people did seem like they were just confused by the college rules. Because, in college, you touch down like that and you're down, it's over. So maybe some people, was confused with the college, but a lot of it seemed to be Packers fans that are just kind of grasping at straws and trying to figure out any other way. I got another question for you. How satisfying is it, or, the Lions and Packers played a football game, and the Packers fans are accusing the refs of giving the Lions too many calls. Yeah. When has that ever happened?
I was going to ask you that question just in a little different way, but yeah, it is insane. The thought that, the refs gave us that game. I mean, yeah, let's argue about the offensive pass interference that they call. No, that was an illegal crackback block on Kirby Joseph. I don't know where else. I asked Jeremy Reisman on, because at 2:01 left in the game, Matt LaFleur was going crazy on the sidelines, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing. And I haven't found anything written online about it, but Jeremy thinks that he was arguing for offensive pass interference somewhere on the field.
Well, it was Laporta.
Was it on Laporta?
Well, because it was a similar play. It was a similar play to what they ran when, obviously for them, it took that touchdown off the board. But then that play, Christian Watson comes around and just smokes Kirby Joseph. It just hits, Kirby hits the ground, and then he's wide open.
Yeah.
You run pick plays and you kind of, I don't know what word I'm looking for. You see what you can get away with, I guess. It happens a lot. And Laporta kind of comes in, makes some contact. But that was a 2-yard gain. And Matt LaFleur just blew up on the refs about that. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, he wanted the penalty, which would have taken it back. But also, let's talk about that individual play in because that was just and we'll break that down a little bit later on.
All right.
But yeah, it was, as far as it is an interesting development that the Packers feel like they're the ones that are cheated. Did they miss the whole Aaron Rodgers era where he would get every pass interference call, illegal hands to the face, anyone on Trey Flowers? And, that game they wiped sacks off his record because, illegal hands to the face. No, it was a fairly officiated game, way better than the Bears game. The Bears game was terrible on both ends. I thought that this was a pretty evenly called game. There were some things that I thought didn't go the Lions' way. Amon-Ra's first down in that last drive looked like a first down to me. I haven't seen any conclusive replay that tells me that that wasn't a first down. So, I mean, we could have that argument too. Bill Vinovich, who I think is the head umpire, that's a pretty clean crew, and they do a pretty good job. So, I have no arguments over how that was officiated yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that crew is known for throwing like one of the fewest amounts of flags in the league. And we had the same amount of penalties over the course of the game. I just, on the St. Brown Brothers podcast, they kind of talked about before that Equinemius said that the Packers still feel like, well, they're still the Lions. As if they still, despite our record, despite everything, they still kind of, run us and they're going to come in here and just take care of us. And I feel like that's how their fans think too. And they just can't stomach another loss. They've lost to, I don't have a number in front of me, but I know if you take the last 8 games, I feel like we've won the majority of them. And, they just can't take it. So now they're going to get any slow-mo, any still image, any hold. You had that hit on Jordan Love that was probably roughing the passer. Amon-Ra probably got away with a little bit of a shove on a pass interference, but, they do that too. It goes both ways. So you could watch the whole game and take still images and do everything too. It doesn't do you any good. The refs were not the reason they lost this game and that you gave up 4 out of 5 attempts we had on 4th down.
Yep, you're exactly right. And we'll get into those 4th down calls later on because that was great. Before we move on to the game, let's just overall big picture, right? We still want the NFC. We want the NFC North. This puts us in a great position to win that. But we also want that number 1 seed, right? We want that number 1 bye. And winning this Packers game was huge because the Eagles and the Vikings are right behind us. We could take care of the Vikings on our own because we play them, right? So to me, we don't need to scoreboard watch with them. We could take care of them at the end of the season. The Eagles, on the other hand, they're a game behind us. They're playing great. To me, it's the Lions and the Eagles at the top of the NFC rankings or whatever you want to call it. We took care of the Packers, and that was a common opponent. If we'd have lost, that would have, a tiebreaker. It goes to, at some point goes to record against common opponents. So that was a big win yesterday. Next week it's like a week from Sunday, we're going to be playing Buffalo. That is, one of the tiebreakers goes to, after overall record, goes to conference record. So Buffalo's out of conference. That game is not as important in to getting the number 1 champion or number 1 NFC North seed. If we lose to Buffalo, it's not going to affect their conference record. So as far as that tiebreaker, it's not going to matter. We'll still be tied. We'll still have the advantage over the Eagles in that case because they have lost, I believe, 2 NFC conference games where we've only lost 1 game, and it happened to be the Bucs who was in our conference.
Yeah, obviously you want to win every game, but the fact that this huge game coming up against Buffalo doesn't hold quite as much weight in the terms of the overall number 1 seed. But I got a question for you, just because we're talking about the Eagles and everything. So before we played the Packers, a lot of the national media and power rankings and everything, they had the Eagles creeping up on us to overtake the number 1 spot. So now after this Packers game, let's say the Eagles destroy the Panthers. They beat them by like 30 or 40. Do you think that there's still going to be people that think the Eagles have leapfrogged us?
I think there's always going to be people think the Lions are the Lions. I really do. I think that they're going to just think that they were SOL, even though that's not the truth anymore. Yeah, man. The Eagles have the flashy toy of Saquon Barkley, who's having an amazing season, and he's doing amazing things, reverse leapfrogging players and doing Saquon Barkley things. So yeah, I get it. I get why they would want, or why they might want to pass us, but we beat the Packers. We did what we were supposed to do. On national TV, everyone saw that. I think we did what we need to do with the second string defense too. I mean, let's be real. We weren't playing with, especially by the end of the game after we lost to Liam, we were playing with the practice squad players, or, outside of Zadarius Smith, who we, traded for. Everyone else has started out on a practice squad or a practice squad elevation.
Yeah. I just don't really, when I hear the national media and the different things about the Eagles, I don't see it. And I know that the main reason is because of the injuries that we've suffered. It's definitely not the on-field product. It's just the thought of how tough are we going to be losing these players? And week after week, next man up mentality. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I mean, how many guys we have that pretty much just got here? They haven't even been here a week, and they're suiting up and they're starting and they're out there for, the majority of snaps, especially after Aleem went down. It's crazy that the defense played as well as they did with the hand we were dealt. But yeah, if you look at the Eagles' record, obviously, they're 10-2 right now, but they've had a lot of close games, and a lot of the, common opponents, and a lot of the teams where you would think that they should have ran through, they have not. They lost by a lot to the Buccaneers. Their other loss was to the Falcons. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like they really blew it there at the end. I think was a Saquon that fumbled, or they had something there right at the end.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, but I mean, they beat the Packers by less than a touchdown. They beat the Saints by 3, the Browns by 4, the Jaguars, they beat them by 5. It's just all of these close games up and down, and the Eagles haven't really had nearly as many injuries that we have.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to people, it started when Hutch went down there, like, oh, the Lions are never going to be able to do this. Well, our defense started playing, honestly, somewhat better in certain areas. I mean, part of that was just growth of the team. But ultimately, what's happening here in our defense, and maybe we'll get to this with our defense, but our secondary is so solid that we're able to make up for a lot of the deficiency with pressure, or whatever, linebacker player, whatever we got going on up front. Our front, we're able to, weather that storm, because we're able to hold coverage for so long that we'll eventually get pressure. We'll eventually affect a throw. And, Jordan Love made a couple amazing throws yesterday that, if they weren't right in that spot, they were either going to be picked or just batted away, because Carlton Davis was, even one that was caught, he swatted, hit it, and it still got caught. That touchdown pass, I think it might have been the first one that he threw, was a rocket, and it was a great pass. I mean, but he had to put it on that spot.
He only threw the
receiver
one touchdown.
Was not wide open. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right, because Josh Jacobs had the 3. So, yeah, the touchdown pass that he threw was a rocket, and it was a great throw. Not much we could do on defense. We have pretty good coverage on that. So, that's fine. I mean, quarterbacks are going to do that, but I'll take that they got to be precision all the time, because they'll make a mistake, and, Kirby and Brian will be back there to make them pay for it.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else, like overall thoughts before we get into the units that you wanted to talk about?
Nah, man, let's start diving in.
All right, man. First thing, special teams. We're going to start, Jack Fox had 2 punts. He actually got off the bench. He had to punt. It wasn't his greatest game. The first punt was pretty short, but he only had to punt 2 times, nothing in the second half. But let's talk about special teams player of the month. Jake Bates, the day he gets the award, he kicks a game winner, 35-yarder, was 2 for 2, kicked a 43-yarder. How relieved were you when he kicked that? Because the angle was behind the kicker. That's what they showed. It looked right down the middle right away. How relieved were you when you saw that?
Very. Despite the fact that he's shown us time and time again that he's been reliable, you never know if it's going to get blocked or if you have anything like that happening. It's not as much pressure as when you're down. When you're down, right, then you're like, oh my God, we have to have this. This one, I was a little more relaxed.
I actually watch this one. Sometimes I won't watch him. I will go to just outside the room in the hallway or something and let my boys tell me what happened. But I sat and watched this one. And yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to the Houston one where you had to wait till the kick went through the uprights to know whether it was good or not.
Yes.
That was like tension filled the whole way. Whereas this one, as soon as he got it up, I was like, that was
short kick,
dead center. It was great. It tells me my comfort level in watching that tells me that the Lions are past my SOL stage, because even back, Stafford era, they kick a field goal like that, I know they're going to screw it up. Something's going to happen. It's going to get blocked. Something's disastrous is going to happen. Not anymore. Dan Campbell has these guys ready to play. They do their job. And yeah, Jake Bates, another game ball, because he wins the friggin' game, as Dan Campbell says.
Yeah, another clutch performance.
Yep.
It's funny that you mentioned that, though, because like in the Stafford area and everything, like, when we'd win close games, you're almost like looking for flags on the field, or you're waiting. I'm waiting for everybody to run out on the field. I'm looking, is the coast clear? Can I celebrate? Can I be happy for once? Yeah, that's over with now.
Yeah. I mean, I think back to the Viking games just earlier this year when they had that weird call about, the snapping the ball and then they get one more play. I wasn't even worried when that happened. Like, I was like, okay, we're just going to get this down, and we end up getting a sack. But and you turn back the clock like 10 years and yeah, I'm a little more nervous. All right. Let's talk about the defense, Jacob. I'll let you start out. How you want to start this out?
Man, defense. Just insane. They came out right away showing that they were going to start bringing pressure on Jordan Love. And, what a great game plan that was. The run defense was holding up. We were pressuring him. We weren't allowing really anything. The whole, the first couple of drives, we were right on him. The defense was playing well. And, I think it was 4 plays in that Aleem got hurt. And that was a huge stop. A nice stop on Josh Jacobs, a good tackle. Then Aleem gets hurt, which was a weird situation, right? They called that from upstairs. They pulled him off the field. He had to go be evaluated. He comes back in the game for a little bit, and then he's out for good. But, I like Miles Adams, Jonah Williams, obviously Al-Qadim Muhammad's been there for a little while, as is Patrick O'Connor. But for those guys to be your defensive line, the anchors and everything, trying to stop Josh Jacobs and this Packers team, and for them to play as well as they did was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it was unreal. I mean, Jamal Adams in that first series was out there a bunch. I think he only played like 1 snap in the second half, but he was out there. I was like, they're going to be blitzing him. And I feel like that was the call. We're going to put pressure on Jordan Love. And he basically, put enough on him that he was no good for the first half. It was shades of the Bears game, right?
Yes.
Like, we had just basically shut Caleb Williams down. We did the same thing with Jordan Love. Both of them had better second halves than first halves. That's for sure. So they figured some stuff out. However, we to do this without Aleem, because we were already down DJ Reader, right? And you're like, oh, Josh Jacobs, this is going to be rough. And then Aleem goes down, and I'm just like, why are they not rushing Josh Jacobs all the time? Because no offense to anybody else on our line, I mean, those are big shoes to fill. Aleem and Reader are big shoes to fill. And why don't you test that? It's the same thing when the Bucs, like in week 2 when we were playing with the Bucs and Vita Vea goes out, and we're like, why aren't we rushing up the middle? It was shocking, and I think it was miscalculation on Matt LaFleur's part to not do that. It would have taken pressure off Jordan Love. I think that they had their script. They were going to pass it or try to test us deep, and the Lions are like, no, you're not going to do that. We're gonna get in your face. And Zadarius Smith gets a sack, and he just set the tone right away.
Yeah, I mean, you're right as far as like, felt a little bit like the Bears game, because we just stopped them at all from doing anything in the first quarter. The second quarter, they showed a little more fight than the Bears did, but even, we were not giving up anything easy except for that one drive. The first touchdown drive that they had was, that play, we actually, 3rd and goal, we stop them, but Terrion gets called for that pass interference in the back of the end zone, and then basically fresh set of downs at the 1-yard line. Going to be hard to keep Josh Jacobs out of the end zone 4 times. So, he scores the first one. But I mean, the other nice drive that they had, if you want to say that, was they had that huge deep pass to Christian Watson. And then that, you mentioned it earlier, but that tight window throw to Tucker Kraft where, Carlton Davis is right there. It was not a good route by Tucker Kraft. It was kind of just a quick one. And Carlton's right there. His hands are up. He, somehow just made it right through. But, I mean, the defense for how many people that were down, and for this Green Bay team, their rush offense, for them to have everything that they had, they just played outstanding. Especially like, Ezekiel Turner. He had that huge open field tackle on Jordan Love in the second half. But, I mean, I don't think he had a whole lot of snaps, but he was out there a lot. He was involved in a lot of plays.
Yeah. He had a very important play at the end of the game when he took Jordan Love down. I almost was wondering if that was a hip drop tackle, the way that he took him down, because he grabbed his arm and then shoved his head right into the ground. And I don't know. The hip drop, I think it might have to be behind because it's worried about rolling your ankle. And he was more on the side. So maybe that's why I haven't seen him call that in a game. I've seen people get fined for it, but I have not seen anyone get penalized for it. I'm sure there's been penalties for it, but most times it's people are getting fined afterwards.
I was thinking horse collar, like the same thing. The way he kind of went down awkwardly, he's trying to hold on to his arm. He's being stiff-armed too. So, I mean, that would have been a tough thing to try to call, because how are you supposed to tackle him, really? But, I mean, it looked awkward. Shoved his face into the ground.
He did. He just face planted him straight down into the turf. Yeah. You talked about, the people off the street, basically, that were not on our team last game. And now, you have Jonah Williams, 22 snaps. Roderick Martin hadn't played in a game at all this season, 22 snaps. Miles Adams, 18 snaps. Quan Alexander, 16 snaps. Jamal Adams, 7 snaps. Crazy. One thing that I did notice that I was really interested in is Ben Neiman only had 1 snap. With all the injuries, Ben Neiman only had 1 snap on defense. Zeke Turner is definitely past Ben Neiman on the depth chart as far as linebackers. Ben Neiman's moved way down. I mean, Jamal Adams out-snapped him. So I thought that was shocking when I saw that, because I assumed that Ben Neiman would be out there more just because he has more familiarity with the scheme and everything like that. Obviously, he's been with the team since training camp.
Yeah, I think that really probably just comes down to the fact that Ben Neiman plays a lot of the special teams for us, and maybe, I guess, on a talent level, they've already kind of discovered that he's not going to be able to hang out there to do exactly what we need to do, because he has had opportunities, but he also hasn't really flashed a whole lot in those chances that he's had. But it's interesting that you have, Quan Alexander. Quan Alexander had 17 snaps. Ben Neiman has 1. There's no way Quan Alexander knows any, very many of the play calls or anything like that at all. I mean, he's just out there on raw talent, just going with what he knows, which is hard when you're in pass coverage. I know that I think he had a pass that he gave up. I don't know if it was in zone or whatever, but you just, you can't expect them to know that. The fact that we won this game with these players is just crazy to me, though. I mean, obviously the offense had a huge part of it, keeping the ball away out of the Packers' hands, but we did step up. We held Josh Jacobs to, hang on one second. We held Josh Jacobs 18 attempts, 66 yards.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they really played well against Josh Jacobs, but I really think that they could have pushed. I think the Packers could have pushed it more. But also Jordan Love, when he was getting in third downs, they weren't converting. I mean, they were 1 for 5, I think, on third downs. So they were not converting when they got those opportunities. We were mostly keeping them in long. So that one drive in the first half where they scored a touchdown, they ran all over us. They basically ran every play. I think it was 7 or 8 runs to 1 pass that whole drive that they got all the way down there.
Some of those were scrambles as well. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, the best run they had, Josh Jacobs had the 19-yard run, and we hit him right in the hole. But I think it was, oh man, who was it? Was it Agude? It was one of the backup, linebacker edge players, was in the right spot, exactly where he was supposed to be. He just couldn't bring him down, and then he ends up breaking off that big run.
I mean, that's Josh Jacobs, though, too. I mean,
exactly.
He breaks tackles. I mean, it's the same thing with David Montgomery. You just, I had him. had him in the hole. I mean, Dave Montgomery had a couple of those runs where he looked dead to rights in, for no gain or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's getting out close to first down. So it was, I think the overall game plan of this game that Dan Campbell had was that, we're going to put it on the offensive, shoulders in this game. And it's no dig at the defense. I mean, they're doing amazing things with what they have available. It's just that, the Lions play complementary football. And we talked about this. That was one of my keys to victory of shouting Josh Jacobs down is, just try to outscore them. And we never got to, where at a point where we could take away the running game because of the score. But, in that same vein of, how can we stop Josh Jacobs? Their offense was, doing long drives, keeping the Packers off the field and, putting points on the board when they needed to put points on the board. We weathered that storm in the second half where they scored a bunch of points, and then the defense got stops when they needed to get stops. And the Packers helped us out with a couple timely penalties, especially at the end there when they got the offensive pass interference penalty that basically, sealed it that they, weren't going to get a touchdown on that, and they were fighting for a field goal.
Yes, real quick, I just want to know because Jordan Love, 12 completions, 20 attempts. They had 50 plays on offense. They had 25 running plays, 25 passing plays. Jordan Love also had to scramble on quite a few of those, and I think that kind of made a difference there too. But yeah, we'll talk about it when we get into the offense. Obviously, that plays into why we went for it on fourth down so much, just to... What we didn't want was to have the ball in the Packers' hands at the end of the game on a 2-minute drill, having these players that don't have a full comprehension of all the play calls and everything. That's when the confusion happens. That's when they find holes. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Right. Yeah. I got one stat that I found was interesting is this is the next gen stat. So the Lions, blitzed on 62.5% of dropbacks. It's the highest blitz rate of the season. However, we only generated pressure on 33.3%. So a third of those, we only generated pressure on those. However, we generated a pressure rate of 44.4% when we sent 4 few rushers. So we are generating more pass rush when we don't blitz. And it's a 6th game of the season where that's happened for the Lions. We generated more pressure when we don't blitz, than as opposed to when we blitz. Some of that's personnel. I don't think that, Derek Barnes is gone. He would have been good in that. He was a good blitzer. We've lost him. We don't blitz Brian Branch nearly as much as we did last year because he's not in the nickel position. They got him back in the safety, if he's not playing, and he was really good at that. And as, some of those where I'm sure where we generated higher pressure rate on 4 more is when we had Hutch early in the season because, we were getting pressure all the time with him.
Yeah. Much easier when you've got someone like that to only rush for.
I know. It amazes me what we're able to do with what we have. And then it also makes me wonder if we had our starting defensive line, with Hutch, how dangerous we would be. And it makes me feel really good for next year because if we hold on to Za'Darius, having Za'Darius on one side and Hutch on the other, and still having Reader and Aleem out the middle, it doesn't get much better than that, man.
Right.
I don't know. That's if everyone's healthy, that's dangerous. So, but that's next year. We're worrying about this year. Anything else on the defense before we move to the offense?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. The offense is where it's at, right? I mean, there's so much to talk about in this section. All day I was thinking, can't wait to talk about this game. I mean, last night, if it wasn't midnight, I was ready to call you and talk about this game last night. But, it's good that we, generally we want to talk the next day. The emotions are a little lower. I don't know how much. Mine are a little lower than that ultimate high of winning the game, but I'm still pretty hyped about this. So let's, where do you want to start out with this offense, Jacob?
You're right. There's so many things to talk about. I think the biggest thing to talk about is going for it on fourth down there at the end, right?
Yep.
So we're going to start there. We're going to do a Quentin Tarantino. We're going to start at the end and go back.
Yeah, let's go back. That's fine. Let's just break down. Actually, how I want to do this is They went for it on fourth down 5 times. Let's just run through those situations. Yeah. We'll talk about what Jacob would have done. We'll talk about what Jason would have done and pros and cons.
Love it.
And then we'll just go through that. So I got them broke down here. So I'll just start it out. The first time that we went on fourth down, it was the end of the half. And that was a touchdown pass to Gibbs on that Texas route. Would you have won it? There was 11 seconds left in the game. Would you have went for it right then? Did you, or in the half? That's what I meant. Were you on board with going for it right there?
That point, we are up 7-10, correct? Did you say that?
Yes, we are up.
What was the score?
Yes, it is. It's 10-7 Lions at that point.
10-7 Lions. The half is pretty much over. Yeah, I mean, if we don't get it, we don't have to worry about them driving down and scoring points because we're on their 2-yard line. I'm okay with going for it there 100%. Worst case, we don't get it. We still take the lead in the halftime.
I think they knew they had this play in their back pocket, and that's what they were going to go with. And it was ran to perfection. I mean, Gibbs hard sells to the outside. The linebacker or defensive back, I'm not sure which, was guarding Gibbs. His shoulders turn. I mean, I think Kirk Herbstreit says this in his commentary. You know, he's got to respect Gibbs' speed, so he turns his shoulder, and then Gibbs just plants his foot in the ground, cuts up, and he's wide open. It was an easy throw for Goff, and they sent the house. The Packers sent the house to get Goff on that one.
That's just really hard to defend. But it's not something that I really usually see right there at the goal line. Usually that's when you have more field to work with. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, they get it. It's a great call.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you don't get it. You're still up 10-7 going into halftime. Momentum would have switched to Packers because they were getting the ball at half. I'm all about going for it in that case. I agree. The benefits, you know, it was nice going up 7. You're going up by 2 scores right at halftime. So I'm okay with going for it there. The next one, the second time they went forward, there was 9:05 left in the third quarter, and that was Goff sneaked it at that point. This was at midfield. It was really close. They snaked it. Are you on board? Were you on board with that one?
I mean, that one's a close one. That one's kind of a toss-up. We are in the middle of the field. What's the score at that point? We're down, right?
Packer, yeah, we're down at that point, yes.
Yeah. So, hang on one second. Let me see here. That's after the interception. That's after the quick touchdown that they had. That's the next drive. We can't get the ball back right away. We've got something cooking here. It's 1 yard. Especially like the call to have Goff sneak it, because we don't typically do that. And that kind of set us up for future plays as well. Yeah, great play call. I'm okay with going for it there because we've got to make something happen.
The next one, same drive, actually, we're going for it again. This time we've run 4 minutes off the clock. There's 5:05 left in the third quarter. 3-yard touchdown pass to Tim Patrick. We're down. I'm on board with this one. I was hoping they'd go for it. I knew they would go for it. They got it. And Tim Patrick got, a touchdown, which was awesome.
I wanted the points there.
You wanted the points? You would have went for the field goal.
I texted you about.
I think it was.
The points there. I thought we should go with the points there. Then we're down by 1. It was a good drive. It'd be something positive to come out of it. Obviously, it's kind of the same situation where, the halftime, they're going to have a really long field. There's got a long way to go for them to put points on the board. But, we're already down. The momentum was swinging in their favor. I wanted the points there.
Yeah, I just think
which we got them. Good call.
We did.
I know, but, I would have been content with the field goal there.
Yeah. The next one is the one that we didn't get. It's the fourth one was 1:29 left, and that still again in the third quarter. So we went for it, fourth down 3 times in just the third quarter alone. That was, we're on the 30-yard line. We give a 1-yard loss to Gibbs. It sure looked like we were going to sneak again, but the way they lined up, that they checked out of it. What about that one? I'm going to assume you did not like that call at all.
I don't know anyone that liked that call. I mean, so here's the thing. You line up, you see what they're giving you. Obviously, they've got more than one play because they checked out of it. Maybe it was an option for Goff to sneak. Maybe he was going to hand it to Gibbs in the backfield, and he was going to try to run up the middle. They call out of it. They try outside. the risk, obviously, as we saw, we're going for it. It's 4th and 1, but they're already in field goal range, and we're down at that point still. I want to say if we are going to go for it there, I think I would have preferred a fake punt. I would have liked to try to catch them sleeping on like a fake punt if that was going to be the call to try to go for it from back there. Running that play, obviously it didn't work out. Had we converted, it's probably not even a conversation. It's just like the other one, like, oh yeah, that's the Lions. That's what we do. The play worked. But, I mean, it was also just a really good defensive play on the Packers. They blew that up.
They did. I don't like pitching it back and then all that room that Gibbs got to run like 6 yards before he's getting up there. I would have preferred either some sort of like fake pitch to Amon-Ra, like run, like there was, like they ran that play later on where they fake pitched it to Gibbs and then Amon-Ra had that run, got like 11 yards, kind of like a jet sweep type thing. Yeah. Something like that. I would have preferred something like that. I don't agree with you about the fake punt because I think they would have smelled that. They would have been ready for that. We've done that before, actually. And Vikings game didn't get it, on that 4th and 1. I'd rather have my offense out there.
That was 4th and like 6.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's different.
Regardless, yeah, that is different. But they would have smelled out that they would have been ready for the fake punt. I'd rather have my offense out there. Yeah, I'd rather have my offense out there. I think if you're non-Dan Campbell team, the other team thinks there's no way you're going to fake a punt. And Dan Campbell team, they're ready for a fake punt there. I would rather have my offense on the field. I just don't like the play call. I would have went with something different. I would actually rather had even Goff pass it to Amon-Ra in that situation because I feel like that's such a money throw. Even Laporta, we'll talk about him in a bit, but I think that he, really showed up in this game, and I like, I'm hoping to see more of that in the future because he was getting first downs, and that's just shades of last year where he was money and getting those, extending drives.
I mean, you also, when you see Goff checking out, if you don't like the way the defense is called, or, if you don't like what you see, we could have used a timeout there.
Or we could have just, like, taken the 5-yard penalty, too, if you don't want to waste a timeout and then just punt. Right. And then, because then you're not going to go for it.
I mean, it's a classic thing. If it works, it's cool, it's great. We're kind of moving on. But because it didn't and it left us in the situation that it did, and because they scored off of that, then it's disastrous.
Right. At the end of the day, though, I'm not necessarily mad about it. This is just how this team's built. And they went into the week, from everything that they said in the press conference everywhere, Dan Campbell told them, we get an opportunity to go for it on 4th down. We're going to do it because he knew what kind of defense he had. But I was talking with my son Preston about this. He's like, well, the defense gave up 31 points. I go, yeah, but one of those was an interception and they were instant red zone. The other one was they got it. They either got a touchdown. We gave it to them, like you said, already in field goal range, not quite in red zone, but pretty darn close. So, I mean, you put your defense in a pretty poor position on 2 of those touchdown drives. Who knows if they would have scored had they not had the advantage of being all the way down there. They may or may not, but then they would have had to drive down the field, and the Packers had a way of shooting themselves in the foot multiple times, so they might have did that on one of those drives. All right, let's talk about this is the big one, right? This is the last time we went for it on 4th down. 43 seconds left in the game. Take us through it, Jacob. First, tell us what happened in the play, and then because I don't know, I'm sure everyone that's listened to this has seen it, but from your perspective, from your perspective though, you see Goff hit the deck. Are you crapping your pants at that point or what?
There was too much going on all at once for me to even fully grasp that he was on the ground until Montgomery already had the ball and was going with it. Right? I mean,
yeah.
Your heart's pounding out of your chest. You're like, please, first, because we got stopped. It's 3rd and 1. We get stopped. And you're like, okay, here we go. Let the clock wind down, timeout. We're going to kick the field goal. Goff's warming up over there on the sideline. You're like, are we really going to go for it again? Are we going to do this? We're in field goal range. Then they line up. It's like, okay, maybe we're just going to try to get them to jump off sides. We're going to fake it. And then, here comes the snap. Here comes the play. We're running it. And I think that probably caught them off guard a little bit in itself. Just, I'm sure they were trying not to jump off sides. That's what they're thinking, too. They're not ready for that play. they did not have the push that they had, several times before that. And, what a great feeling. It's funny because, the field goal hadn't happened yet. But at least for me, I don't know if you feel the same way. After that first down, it almost felt like, oh, thank God we won the game. Like that, it was just a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. Yes, I felt like instant relief. I did have a slight panic attack when I see Goff start heading towards the ground. That was scary. But he ended up getting, the ball off, and, there was no scary moment because there was a huge hole. I mean, Sewell and Zeitler just made a huge hole, and Montgomery just ran right through it.
It's kind of like the first touchdown.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I told Sarah, I was like, get ready for some hard running on that first touchdown, and it wasn't. He just waltzed right into the end zone. But
Boy
anyways,
Scout, salute.
Yep. Back to this play. I was on board with it, to be honest with you. I did not want to give them a chance, extend it, get into overtime, because 40 seconds is, I know they didn't have a timeout, but 40 seconds is a long time. They could get there. You're in a dome stadium. You don't have to worry about weather. He can kick. McManus is a pretty good kicker. I don't know what his, how long they would have had to get, but I like it. I like that they went into the game. The game's tied at that point. It's different if we're losing. I think you definitely kick it, but I think you hit on something there, that as much as Dan Campbell's a risk taker, I don't think that the Packers fully bought in that we were going to hike that ball. I think that they thought we were going to run that down and try to get them to jump off sides. So they were on their heels a little bit as far as we're not going to get the huge jump because they didn't want to be twitchy on that. And we didn't let the clock run way down. We snapped it fairly quickly. And I think that just caught them off guard because, for a lot of that game, they were shutting down our run game. I mean, we weren't getting a lot. Their linebackers are crashing down heavy in that game, plugging up all the holes, and we weren't getting, Gibbs could not get up to full speed, and that's why he did not have a great game. He could never get up to his full speed to be able to get to the second level. This was more of a Monty game, and got us that first down, and I felt the same way too. I'm like, now we run the clock all the way down, and I don't know if I felt like, hey, we won this game, because I knew we still had to make that kick, and I was still nervous about that. I have confidence in Jake Bates. It has nothing to do with Jake Bates. It's just anything can happen. You saw, was it the Broncos-Chiefs game where they get one blocked or whatever at the end of the game? Anything could happen. But I felt like, well, at least if we miss this, then we're going directly into overtime, and the Packers have, they can't win this in regulation.
Right. I mean, looking at it, so to that point, we were 7 for 11 on plays of 2 yards or less. So that's just all plays throughout the game. If we had 2 yards or less to go for a first down or touchdown, we converted 7 out of 11 times. So then Montgomery gets stopped right there, and it becomes 7 of 12. So, 60% of the time we're getting these yards here. Analytically, seems like it was the right decision. This one had people, there's a lot of people on both sides. Obviously, because of the way the defense was running, because of everything that we had, basically a preseason team you had out there with the defensive line and everything. We wanted to make sure the offense is the one that had the ball in their hand at the end of the game. It worked. It's awesome. We won. This is a very, very different story if he does not get that. If we don't get that play there, then they've got to go, like you said, McManus, we've seen 60-yard field goals in Ford Field. They don't have to go that far. They don't have the timeout, but now they've got to get another 30, 40 yards or whatever before they have a realistic chance, and then they're, going to win the game. This is kind of the ultimate, just having faith in your team, having trust in your guys, knowing what we do, and just trusting that we're going to go out there and get the job done. So, I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't know what the saying is. You live by the sword, die by the sword. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We make these decisions. We have to live with it. We had to eat it during the NFC Championship game. And, it doesn't always go your way. And this time it did. And as we've seen, more often than not, it does go our way. So you can't harp on the times where it doesn't work. We went 4 out of 5. Yes, the one that we didn't get was a bad one, and they scored off of it. But in the end, we still got it done.
Yeah, and you live by the sword. In the NFC Championship game, I still, those are the right calls. Josh Reynolds just dropped those passes. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It should have worked. So, but that's what got us there. And when we get to the NFC Championship game, I'm sure that, Dan Campbell's still going to go for it. He's still going to be Dan Campbell. He's going to put the pressure on the other team. But, when you look at those analytics, when you measure like, oh, they should have went for the field goal. I mean, those analytics don't take into account that Aleem McNeil's hurt. We're out DJ Reader. They don't, Dan Campbell knows that, right? And he's going to use his intuition. He'll use analytics, but in context of his team. And when they, I think it flashed on the screen, should kick a field goal. But again, there's other things surrounding this team or this game that are specific to what's going on right now that can push you in one direction or the other. So I caution anyone that just reads and just like, there's a rule book and you need to go for 2 here, or you need to do this here, or you need to do that there. There's other factors that and variables that can move, that percentage back and forth that isn't always taken, in the broadcast. They're not going to know that stuff. They're not going to, it's hard to quantify that. But I learned over the years to trust Dan Campbell's intuition more often than not.
Right. Agreed.
So, I mean, like you said, it's easy to go back and say, I didn't like the fourth one because they didn't get it, so that was a bad choice, but they should have kept the other 4. No, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You don't know which one you're going to get. You don't know which one you're going to miss. Obviously, we got it 80% of the time. Okay. You have the offensive line to do that. You have Jared Goff that's very good in those situations. We have great running backs. I mean, we have the horses to be able to do this. And beyond all that, it is a trust that Dan Campbell puts in his players that persists throughout the whole game, not just in these situations. And so you keep, putting it in the players' hands. Dan Campbell doesn't take it out of their hands saying, I don't trust you to get this first down. No, he trusts his players to get that first down. And, we won the game. We swept the Packers this year. We control our own destiny in the division. All that good stuff because of those decisions.
I love hearing that. We swept the Packers.
Yeah, it's a good sale. Maybe I'll make that your Christmas gift. I'll just get a shirt that says we swept the Packers or something on it.
Just a broom, the Packers logo on the bottom.
Yeah. Yes. I like it.
So, did you see the guy with the cheese grater in the stadium?
Yeah. Did you hear the story behind that? Like he hid it in his jacket and they confiscated it like shortly after they showed him on the screen.
Was it not metal? I don't understand how he got it in there.
I don't know. That makes me feel so safe, right? I mean, whatever. So, but how did he hide? He must have hid it in his sleeve. They don't really pat down your sleeves. I mean, it's mostly just a body like thing, but whatever.
But you walk through the detector and then they've got the wand if something goes off.
I know. That's true. Yeah. I don't know.
They might be under some trouble for that. Some security details probably got to take a look at the operations here. Yeah,
they're going to look back and find out which one they went through, right? All right. We talked about the run game a little bit earlier, especially when we were talking about the 4th down calls. The Packers were they did the best job I've seen this season of shutting down our run game, I feel. How did you feel about that?
Oh, yeah, I agree. And I think what that really came down to is their get off the ball. I don't know if they just had the timing down right or if they really were just, fairly locked in and focused. I don't know exactly what they had going on, but I mean, they were really blowing up Frank Ragnow too. They were right on it pretty much the whole time. They were in the backfield or they were just making impact, right away. They weren't making it easy. I will say, Gibbs, because I know you talked about before Montgomery having angry runs and everything like that and fighting for yards. Gibbs ran somebody over. Looked like Gibbs even surprised himself that Evan Williams kind of bounced off him like that. He paused, gathered himself and got a couple more yards out of it.
Yeah.
That was a huge hit.
That was nice. That was a good angry run. Yeah, Gibbs could not get to full speed and they were ganging up on Monty and we just could not, Monty fought through a couple more. He had, better yards per carry than Gibbs. Usually it's quite the other way. Gibbs beats him on yards per carry. But we did enough to win, but I would have liked to see that. But I really, based on what I saw, the linebackers were crashing down heavy and covering the gaps. And so there wasn't a lot of room to run. But, the side effect of that for the Packers was that our screen game was much better because those linebackers were being sucked up, and we were able to, to run a really good screen game. We had some really good screen passes. JMO, Laporta, Monty all had good screen passes in that game that, either got us first downs or, 7-8 yards on per pops. It was a good plan the Lions had. They didn't get a lot of pass rush on Goff. I think they only ended up with 1 sack, and that's kind of the Packers' MO this year. They haven't got much pressure, but they were able to stifle our run game. I don't think every team can do what the Packers did, and if they're going to try, we're going to burn them with our screen game and our over the middle, because if the linebackers crash down, that leaves the middle of the field wide open.
Right. I mean, they were great play calls to be able to get the screens out there. I do wish we would have tried a few more end arounds. We had that big one with Amon-Ra, but that's how you stop that from happening, right? They're coming up the middle, they're crashing the run so much, we're going to get you quick outside and make you have to think about it and make you play off a little bit. It's interesting to look at the stats and see that Goff actually attempted 41 passes, which, as you've heard me say before, I feel like is a recipe for disaster. I don't want Goff to throw that much, but honestly, other than the interception, I don't think Goff had that one bad throw. He might have had one other that wasn't on. Most of his incompletions were either he was kind of thrown away, or they just got knocked loose or something like that. It wasn't like in the past where the ball's coming out flat, it's coming out awkwardly or anything like that. Goff had a really good game. He was on in a night where he had to be.
Yep, I agree. He was on, and they were, again, I'm gonna say this till I blue in the face. His way of moving around the pocket has increased, and he has become a better quarterback for it this year. He had that one play where they were blitzing around the edge. He stepped up and hit Montgomery over the middle, and they end up getting a first down on that play. And Goff created that with just his simple motion of moving up a little bit in the pocket. Now, the offensive line did a good job so the pocket wasn't crashed. There was room to step up, but Goff doesn't, he doesn't get hurried. He doesn't get worried. He never looks scared in the pocket. He always looks very comfortable, and he was able to, get a first down. It was a huge play. And then he also had that nice run that he ran for 7 or 8 yards. I think he could have got the first down on that, and he just stepped out a little bit early. I thought I guess it's not worth him getting hurt, or pulling what Caleb Williams did last week. He just, went out of bounds and, lived to see another play. But yeah, I like what Goff's, the boys were arguing. My boys were arguing whether they were faster than Goff in that play. They were arguing whether they could beat him in a race.
Just because he looks so much slower than everyone else in comparison.
Yeah, I was like, he's faster than you. It's just a comparison next to every other athlete that's on the field. He is just a step slower than everybody. I know, running in molasses, man.
No, but you're right. I mean, he was able to move around the pocket, make good decisions. He had quite a few check down plays to the running backs, and it was the coverage is there, his first read's not there, he's moving around. If they're going to lay off us and give us those, 6-7 yards of the running back, then we're taking it.
Yeah, and I mean, because 6 or 7 yards that you're going to lay off on Gibbs can turn into a lot more. Even Monty. I mean, Monty will break tackles and get there. Gibbs will just make a guy miss and take it all the way. But he
juked that defensive lineman.
Which one?
Did you see that? Gibbs. It was a screen pass, Gibbs. I mean, it was a big, I don't know who it was. It might have been a defensive tackle. It was a big defensive lineman. So not somebody that's impressed that, you juked him out of their shoes, but he hit his knees. He fell to the ground.
Yeah, that's such a great feeling, I'm sure, for them. We talked a little bit about the offensive line. Dan Skipper played a good game. He only allowed 1 pressure on 44 pass blocking snaps. I don't know if you saw the celebration, the locker room celebration afterwards. I think he was puking. I don't know. Campbell kind of called him out there. That was really funny. But he can puke all he wants. He played really hard all game. He deserves to do all that. And yeah, I was worried when Taylor Decker wasn't going to play, but honestly, I don't feel like it was that much of a factor. Maybe we get a little more running room if Taylor's out there. I don't know. Dan had that one holding penalty, but other than that, played when you don't hear his name a lot, that's a good thing.
Exactly. No, that was hilarious. Just the way Campbell, he's addressing the locker room, and he's like, "Yeah, Skip, throwing up over there, keep doing your thing," or whatever he said. Was hilarious. No, but you're exactly right. If you're not hearing Skipper's name constantly be called, that's because he's playing a good game.
Mm-hmm.
He also had a little bit of a flop, but got 15 yards out of it. I texted you, and you seemed like you did not think he flopped. You thought that was dirty.
No, I'm pretty sure he flopped, but
I knew he flopped right when it happened.
But yeah, because I mean, how strong do you have to be to throw a 6'9" guy, back and just by hit him in the chest? But yeah, I mean, Skipper, that was a good acting job. It looked like he had just thrown him back. Like sometimes they flop and it's so obviously bad. They're flailing their arms or whatever. He just instantly just fell back like he got knocked to Kingdom Come, and it was 15 yards. And I don't know if you saw LaFleur on the sideline. They went over to him, and you could see what he was saying. He goes, "Was that Quay?"
Yeah, right.
I was like, "Yep." I said, "Keep the training staff out of there because Quay's on his warpath, man."
I think that had a little bit to do with it too, just the reputation that he has and everything.
Yeah, I mean, because Skipper was not totally innocent. He was pushing him probably after the play was done, and then he let go, and then Quay just gave him the old heave-ho, and Skipper just fell on his back, and out come the flag, and 15 yards later, first down.
I don't remember exactly which play that it was on, but it was one of those plays, a close call again, where I think it might have been Laporta. I can't remember if it was Montgomery. Somebody had the ball, and, they pile up, and there's a Packers player that just straight up runs and jumps up on the pile.
Yeah.
Clearly, everybody on TV, everybody everywhere saw it.
That was the last drive.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the last drive. Yeah. And so that's when we talked about the referees earlier in the game. Yeah, they didn't call that. They could have called that because that was obvious. He just jumped up, and you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. The Lions got called for that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Within the last few weeks, they got called on a similar penalty. They could have easily called that. Didn't, I'm not throwing my arms up in the air about it, but, we if you're going to...
what are you doing? When we had it, everyone was on the ground, I think. It was a big pile up or in the goal line maybe or something. Yeah. Somebody jumped on it. This was, they're still on their feet. What are you accomplishing by jumping up and down like that? That was just stupid.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
It would have really been dumb had they, they had to have seen it. I don't know why they didn't call it. Everybody saw it. Mm-hmm. Probably because if it was the last drive and everything, the circumstances, they don't, like you said earlier, this crew doesn't throw a lot of flags. They're probably not going to throw a flag in this situation in the fourth quarter because it's, that's going to just give us first down, and, it's fine. I'm okay with them keeping their hats in the back pocket. No one got hurt on that. And we got beneficial calls earlier in the game too, so it's all good. Let's move on. We mentioned him earlier. Sam Laporta had a good game. 5 catches on 7 targets for 54 yards. He had a drop, but then after that, he had that catch over the middle. He stretched all the way out. Amazing catch. Just reminding people of what, he's capable of and what he can do. He has been banged up for most of the year. I mean, I know he's not on the injury report anymore, and he's still out there playing and everything, but he's definitely not back to, what he was able to do before. So it was good to actually see him have a game like this and be able to show that he's, he's capable of making these plays.
Yep. J-Mo had a good game. 5 catches for 80 yards. Didn't have any crazy, afterburner catches, but he caught one crossing over the middle, got quite a few yards on that play. But yeah, he just looked, just another weapon for us. And yeah, he looked good.
Yeah, he had that one huge one on the first drive getting us down there. And then the last drive, I think it was the first play of the last drive. That one going out of bounds there at the end, right?
Yep, that was a nice catch. And that's a play it seemed like we tried to do in the Bucs game earlier where we were trying to get him on the sideline and Goff couldn't get it in bounds to him. And yeah, J-Mo toe tapped and it was perfect.
Right.
And Amon-Ra, statistically not an amazing game. 5 catches on 6 targets for 43 yards. But on a last drive, when you need it the most, you're going to Amon-Ra somewhere on that drive. And yeah, was it 2nd and 17? And he gets I think he gets 17. The ref said he got 16 and a half or whatever. That was a play that maybe you could call a push off. I don't know. I didn't see his arms fully extended on that. They generally don't call that unless you're like really shoving them out of the way. But I'm sure there was some contact that was initiated there. You could have called it, but yeah. Amon-Ra's going to get the ball somewhere on the last drive, either to seal it for a first down or, put us in a good position. And in this case, came up with the catch. It was an awesome catch.
Yeah, I hate the offensive favor that they have for these pass interferences. This one benefited us, obviously. It's at the top of the route. He's definitely got a shove off. But it was funny because like the Packers receiver did like I guess halfway between a flop and still playing. Like his arms are up. Like, did anybody see that? As he's still running after Amon-Ra. Like, what are you doing? The play's still going. Like, you're not getting anything. He should have tried to stop him a little more. It was interesting though that they signal first down and then they do the quick replay assist and everything, but then they showed no replays of that afterward. We didn't get to look and see how close it was or anything. They just like, nope, that's it. And there was a timeout after that and everything. They had plenty of time to show that play again.
I know. And generally, I feel like when they do that, the NFL has stepped in and said, yeah, don't show that because that doesn't put us in that good of a light.
Well, it doesn't help the whole they're fixing games and they want this and that,
Yeah. Oh, no. And just like last week, they didn't show that pass interference. They did not show very many replays of that pass interference after that terrible call on Vildor. And same thing. They just, they're not going to show those things that, maybe doesn't put them in the best light. And I don't think it's a matter of fixing games or anything like that. It's just a matter of, we're going to just look at our appearance on that. But regardless, we ended up we had to go for it on fourth down because the very next play we run and, Montgomery gets served and then we go for fourth down with 43 seconds left, on the way to kick the game-winning field goal. So crazy game, super exciting game. We were down 2 times in that game in the third quarter, came back both times. I love this team. I love what they stand for. I love how they play. It's an awesome time to be a Lions fan.
Definitely. They never stop fighting, man. There's definitely no laying down.
No, this was a great. I've watched the post game celebration in the locker room multiple times. Fires me up every time. Just the belly yaw from Dan Campbell and just it's a great one. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, check it out because it's awesome. All right. Anything else you want to talk about on offense?
No, man. Just really happy to be able to get this one done.
Oh, man. It is.
Sweep the Packers. Another division win. Staying in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed in the bye.
I think a lot of us, especially with the injuries, had we're preparing for a loss there. We did not think and did not, think I thought they were going to win, but I was preparing myself that this was going to be a tough fought game. And if they lost, we had, I don't want to say excuses, but reasons. We're playing, second string defense. But no, beat the Packers. The Packers have lost now. They've lost, 4 games to the Lions, 1 to the Vikings, and 1 to the Eagles. So the combined losses that they've had is what? 5 losses. The teams that they've placed, I don't know how many, I'm not going to add up how many wins, but they've only had 5 losses. But I just think the Packers just proved they're not in the echelon of the upper NFC. They're just not. And I'm not convinced that Jordan Love is the guy. After watching him play those 2 games, I think he can make amazing plays, but maybe when he matures and he can handle pressure a little bit better, that he'll be able to do that. But you can rattle him and then he will be inaccurate at times.
Absolutely. I mean, that goes with what we said before. I'm happy that they signed him to as big of a contract as they did because I just don't see to be the number 1 paid quarterback and everything. You just haven't proved that, and time will tell. But I think so far this season it showed. The beginning of last year he did not look very good at all. The end of last year he looked really good. Now we're kind of seeing that in between. And they've got, he was injured, he was banged up a little bit, now he's moving around a little bit better, but I don't know. I think if you're Jordan Love, if you're a Packers fan, I don't think you think Jordan Love played necessarily a great game. He missed a lot of throws. Some of those were pressured. Some of them were not.
It's all right. That's their problem to worry about. Hopefully we don't have to see them the rest of the year. Playoffs withstanding here. Just quickly before we head out of here, our grit guarantees. I thought Gibbs was going to have his best game of the year. I was wrong, obviously. Did enough to win, but, did not have his great game. You were close on yours. Goff throwing 4 more TDs. He got 3. He was very close. Probably would have got one at the end had we not had to, stop and slow down for a field goal. But, yeah, neither one of us hit on our grit guarantees, but you definitely came closer than I did.
I had a feeling like they were going to let Goff come out like that. Not necessarily that they were going to be shutting down our run game like they did, but I thought that Goff was going to be able to put some points on the board. So I was close. It's okay.
They kept getting down inside the 2 or 3 yard line. I thought for sure we're going to have Monty or Gibbs just get it in there.
Yeah,
but,
right.
It just happened. I do want to mention I forgot to mention this during the thing, but we could talk about it now. You mentioned it a little bit, the Monty Boy Scout salute. My youngest is a Boy Scout. My wife is the den leader for the troop, for his age group. Her text group went crazy when they saw that, like, she was getting all sorts of things. And she's like, she didn't realize that, like, as many Lions fans were in that group, and they were all texting each other, did you see it? Did you see it? He did the Boy Scout salute. And, we saw it right away, and Bradley flipped out. And, Dave Montgomery is an Eagle Scout, in case you didn't know that. That's why he did the Boy Scout salute. So I'm glad he did that. That was very cool for me.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was at first. I didn't get the reference. Did you say your wife is the den leader?
Yep. Yeah. She's
the den leader of your house too, isn't she?
She is. No, she's amazing. She is, she is a teacher. So she is very good with kids. She really likes it. My schedule does not allow me to do that because I just can't have an open schedule like that. It changes all the time, whereas Sarah can. And so she loves it. She does a great job with the kids. Hers is one of the bigger dens in the group. And yes, Boy Scouts can be a really good thing. I know that they've gotten some bad raps on, some things that you would see in the news. They've done some things to correct that. I feel very comfortable.
Cookies, man?
No, man, that's what, girls can join Boy Scouts now because some people don't like that the Girl Scouts are all about cookies. And, Boy Scouts still do a lot of nature stuff. Bradley's building slingshots and shooting things and doing all sorts of stuff, but he's doing it in a respectful manner. So
awesome.
Shout out to Boy Scouts. I think they do a lot of good things. Oh, man.
That was awesome.
So good. Yeah. I threw up the video on YouTube. So check out the videos. I put up a bunch of shorts on there, put up the whole last drive because that is a great last drive. Oh, man. And you can just relive that, all that anxiety and adrenaline we had at the same time, just knowing that the result's going to be awesome. Anything else before we wrap up here, Jacob?
No, man. We're on to Buffalo.
Yeah, man. Victory Friday. We're going to get back to Victory Monday here shortly. It's a good time for the Lions to have an extended break. Get our guys healthy. It's going to be a huge matchup. We'll be talking next week. We'll be back on our regular schedule, and we'll be talking Buffalo next week. So look forward to going to that one. It's going to be fun. I know you'll be watching it at home. Got to wait a little bit. It's going to be a 4:25 game, but we'll be ready.
Early that day.
That's right. All right, man. All right. For Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.